Good evening. I'm Caroline Same. I'm going to talk to you today about human fetal development. This is a very important topic for everyone to understand because a lack of understanding about the proper fetal development can result in severe birth defects. According to the Maternal Child Health Journal, an infant is 5 times more likely to suffer a major birth defect if born to parents who are unknowledgeable about proper fetal development. I have experience in this area from working as a student nurse in labor and delivery and in the nursery in hospitals as well as in OBGYN clinics. Fetal development is a very fascinating process and it is also an important public health concern. Education about fetal development needs to begin before conception and it should involve 2 key points. The awareness of the proper sequence of development, what happens when, so that the mom can recognize if something was supposed to have occurred that didn't occur and report that to her healthcare provider, as well as the information about avoiding harmful agents that may cause birth defects or interfere with the proper growth of the fetus. The first point is about the developmental milestones that the fetus should reach by going from each week. The week-to-week development on the chart is from the Mayo Health Clinic, and it's just going to go through every week of pregnancy. The pregnancy should last 40 weeks, and it can be broken down into 3 stages of development. The first stage of development is between week 1 and week 2, and this is the pre-embryonic stage. During this stage, the egg is migrating through the fallopian tubes, becomes implanted into the uterus, and the cells are rapidly dividing to form a complete embryo. During the second stage of development, which is the embryonic stage, that is week 3 through week 8. This is the most critical period of development for the fetus. This is when all major organ systems are developed and the external features are also developed. At 4 weeks, right here, is the milestone for the baby. At this point, the neural tube is formed, which is going to be the precursor for the spinal cord and the brain. And the heart is also developed, and it is beating, even though it's not audible at this time. At the 8th week, at the end of the embryonic period, every organ and every external feature that would be present in an adult is present in the fetus. The neural tube is closed, meaning that the brain and the spinal cord are separate entities, and the lungs are just beginning to form. The third stage of development is the fetal stage, and it goes from week 9 all the way until the end of the pregnancy. During this stage, the organ systems are being refined and they're maturing. At 16 weeks, the fetal heartbeat can be heard by ultrasound, and the gender can also be determined. The baby at this time can suck, swallow, and move, and fetal movement should be detected by the mother. If, for some reason, at this point the mother had not felt her baby move, she should report that to her healthcare provider so that they can see what could be the potential causes. At the 28th week, the eyes are fully developed, the liver, the intestines, the pancreas are almost fully formed, and at this time the lungs are capable of gas exchange, which means that the baby could possibly survive outside of the womb. However, there's only a 10 to 20% chance of survival. At 32 weeks, the baby is going to increase greatly in body fat and their bones will become fully formed. Rhythmic breathing patterns are also set in place. At the 38th to the 40th week, this is considered full term. And at this point, even though the baby can be delivered at 38 to 40 weeks, the infant's lungs are going to continue to mature and develop every single day until birth. The second main point is that a fetus is going to require a healthy environment free of all teratogens. These are any agents that can cause birth defects or problems with development of the fetus. Okay. The information about the teratogens comes from the Maternity and Women's Health Care book. Prenatal care should start before conception. And this is because the baby is going to develop most rapidly starting from conception until the 8th week. This is often the time when most women don't even know that they're pregnant, and this is when the baby is going to be in the greatest danger for severe birth defects. Any teratogens such as alcohol and smoking and drugs or obesity, hypertension, high glucose levels, anything like that would affect the baby severely during this stage of development. This is why it's important for all lifestyle modifications to be made before the baby is ever conceived so that an optimal environment is provided starting at conception. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that 400 milligrams of folic acid be taken every day for 1 month prior to conception. And this is to prevent severe neural tube defects, which would be spina bifida, mental retardation, spinal cord disorders, and brain abnormalities. During the 9th to the 40th week, at this point, the baby has a very decreased susceptibility to teratogens, and at this point, only minor birth defects could occur or small structural and functional defects. The brain is still maturing, and at this time, the baby is susceptible to developing ADD, ADHD, small problems with the brain, as well as the teeth and the ears can still be affected at this time. This is usually the time where most women begin proper prenatal care, and unfortunately, this is usually when the damage has already been done. The knowledge of all of these major milestones and all of the harmful teratogens that can affect the fetus is very important. That way, if something was to go wrong, the mother will know, hey, the baby should be kicking right now. I don't feel it. They can report that to their healthcare provider, and prompt and early diagnosis and treatment can be begun. It's also a way for healthcare providers, to know what to expect when the baby's born, things like that. The avoidance of all teratogens before the fetus is ever formed is also very important, because if you're still continuing these harmful lifestyles, when the fetus develops, the first few weeks is when it's very highly likely to cause a problem. So you really should start prenatal care before you get pregnant. If all of these things would occur, there would be a decreased incidence of unnecessary birth defects, and we would be able to avoid lifelong complications in many children. I'm a